Hey everyone. So there's a full moon in Sagittarius today, and this just kind of felt appropriate to film today because I'm really feeling this Sagittarius energy right now. So this video is going to be about the essence of Sagittarius and what Sagittarius actually symbolizes from a broader perspective. So the essence of Sagittarius is that they are the pursuit of happiness. And I'm not saying that to say that Sagittarius is like the best sign or the happiest sign, because I know that that might sound kind of biased. What I actually mean is they show us the sign Sagittarius symbolizes what it means to be human. And I'm going to talk about Aristotle's work to kind of support why I think this about Sagittarius. So Aristotle, sorry, I'm looking at my notes for this. Okay, so he said that humans are always pursuing a higher good, or we're always pursuing something that leads to something good. And Aristotle questioned what the highest good would be. And he said that that would be happiness. But it's not necessarily happiness in the way that you might think it is, because people's definition of happiness can change depending on their circumstances. What he thought of as happiness is living according to the function of human beings, like what it means to be human. And he said that that means possessing reason. So it means doing the work of being a human well, because when we're doing the work of humans well, like when we're living in accordance with what it means to be human, we are acting out of virtues. And Aristotle said that there was two kinds of virtues that he was talking about regarding this. There's virtue of mind and virtue of character. So virtue of mind is practical and theoretical wisdom. That's what he defined it as. Virtue of character, he defined as courage, temperance, and justice. So the definition of virtue itself is, for Aristotle, is the middle of two opposing sources of excess, I guess, if that makes sense. So, for example, courage is the middle of being a coward, which would be like one excess, one extreme end of that, and also in the middle of courage is also in the middle of being like completely rash. So it's like these two, being a coward and being completely rash, are like two extreme ends. But courage is in the middle of that. It's the middle ground. It's balancing that. That's what it means to live in virtue. And it's combining the virtue of mind and the virtue of character. And the reason why this is associated with Sagittarius is because Sagittarius is represented by the centaur. So the virtue, centaurs are known as like wild creatures, right? Like they're like, if you read about centaurs, like they're said to be barbaric and chaotic and just crazy. They can't be tamed. So they do everything in excess. Like everything is they're driven by excess. So that's like the negative side of the centaur. Now, the positive is that they actually can be courageous and they are visionary. They're like represented by the shaman. I mean, Chiron was a centaur himself. He's one of the examples of like the positive side of the symbol of Sagittarius and what Sagittarius can be. So they can be mystical, they can be visionary, they can be wise. So Sag is the centaur attempting to live by virtue, attempting to live by the balance of the virtue of mind and the virtue of character. Now, the virtue of mind would be the body of the man that is attached to the centaur, that is attached to the body of the horse. The body of the horse would be the virtue of character, because Sagittarius is after the 7th and the 8th houses. And now, if you understand astrology and what the 7th and 8th house represent, 7th and 8th house represent the shadow, because they are the opposite of the ascendant, where that is your conscious, you know what I mean? Like your perception of reality. It's the jumping off point that then sets up your entire narrative. But all of that comes through the initial perspective that you have of life. So now the shadow, the opposite, would be the 7th house, and the 8th house is things that we repress, the things that we deny about ourselves. So Sagittarius mutable signs themselves are the combination of the cardinal and the fixed sign, because they're like the release, the product of them. They release what the cardinal sign initiates and the fixed sign maintains. They then collect that and release it. It becomes like a bigger thing. It becomes expended in the air, and it's dispersed everywhere. So Sagittarius is attempting to balance the shadow aspects that could be found in the virtue of character. That's why we're attempting to develop a virtue of character, attempting to develop justice, courage, and temperance, like Aristotle said, because the body of the horse is what drives the Sagittarius to extremes, to excess, because horses are wild, like they're free-spirited. So it's driven to excess in, I guess, like the indulgence of human experiences, like pleasure, sex, drinking, food, money, like all of these things. It's Jupiter. Jupiter expands everything. So it's utilizing also the virtue of mind. So Sagittarius, the centaur, has the human body, like the human mind. So it's man connected to the underlying character of humans. And the man that's at the top of the horse has an arrow that is shooting up. So the virtue of mind is utilizing wisdom, like Aristotle wrote. So Sagittarius is attempting to balance that out, balance out the fundamental human idea, or not even idea, like the function of humans, that we have that innately in us. We have this animalistic side that can be represented by like the shadow attributes of humanity, and integrating that into our human rationality, our human ability to possess reason and wisdom and knowledge, and kind of understand what those darker motives are, underneath, represented by the centaur, like the horse's body. So Sagittarius then is the pursuit of happiness, because they are combining both of these virtues together. They're attempting to use the virtue of mind as represented by the man's, the half of the man on the horse, and virtue of character, trying to integrate those animalistic tendencies into something more virtuous. So doing that work that is represented by the progression of the 7th, the 8th, and then finally the 9th house, it's integrating shadow into, like, it's just integrating it into yourself so that you're aware of it, so that you can be above it, you can be higher than it, just like the man on the horse. So because they're doing that, they symbolize this idea of humanity, of what it means to be human, because we're the only animal on this planet that can do this. And Sagittarius understands that because they're connected to the animal side of us, because they are it's innately in them, this shadow aspect. And I'm not saying that, you know, animals are bad or anything, but it's just humans have the ability to reason, be rational, be logical. They have the ability to understand these things, these underlying motivations. So that's why this balance, achieving this balance for Sagittarius, is how they are the pursuit of happiness. Because in Aristotle's work, in his words, I guess, that pursuit of happiness is living by the highest good, and the highest good is living by these virtues, because those virtues are a reflection of what it means to do the work of being a human well. So Sagittarius is both free and grounded at the same time. They're both visionaries, seeing things from a broad perspective, and also rooted in the earth. So it's integrating the shadow with the mind, the conscious mind, integrating the spirit with the body. And Jupiter is all about that too, because Jupiter is our search for meaning in life, our search for this understanding of life. And they're also a fire sign, which fire signs represent life in general, life and awareness of the self. So that's how you can see the essence of Sagittarius. I hope that this video was helpful and you learned something. Let me know what you think, and thanks for watching.